All right, as we go on now, looking at topic 2 of chapter 5, we're going to do factoring trinomials. Starting off easy, you want to have a protocol for doing it. And this will be the protocol. So there is the trinomial. Now, this was the product of two binomials. And what we're asked to do now is to factor what these were. So again, we're in a sense going to undo the FOIL and we're going to follow a protocol. So again, look at the trinomial. Is it in standard form? Is there a common factor you could take out of each term? In this case, no, but it is in standard form. So in looking at the first, that is what would have gone here and then there, so that you get x squared. Well, this is the easiest kind. The only possibility would be this was an x and this was an x. Now we look at the 12, and mentally we start thinking of the factors of 12. 1 times 12, 2 times 6, 3 times 4. And as we look at these, we're wondering which combination might add up to a -7. Well, this would be a -13. This would be a -8. But this combination would add up to a -7 if they were, in fact, negative. So let's just do that. Now, this is trial. We're going to FOIL it. So first, x squared. Yes, that checks. Now my outers are a -4, keeping track of that mentally. My inners are a -3. Add them together, I got a -7. And in order to get a +12, both of these signs had to be the same. So -3 times -4 is a +12. That's the first one. And again, in the flipped classroom lesson, we went over a lot of the protocol of this. Number 2, we're going to ask first, is there a common factor? Well, each term is even, so we know we could take a 2 out of everything. So this would be, in a sense, line 2. The example is line 1. Now we're going to factor out a 2 from each one here. Now again, the protocol would be to put 2 sets of parentheses underneath, because we want to see, as we unfoil, if we can find out what the 2 binomials were that gave us this. Well, now, since our A term here is a 1, we know our first is going to be an x and an x. Now again, mentally we start going through factors of 24. Well, 1 times 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 8, and when I see this combination, 3 and 8, that adds up to 11. So if they're both negative, I would get a positive for my third term here. And when I FOILed, I got the inners and outers add up to a -11. So this is it. Now, again, is there a common factor? No. So then you're going to put 2 sets of parentheses. And again, part of this is art, judgment, study, analysis. Now, as we undo the FOIL here, our A term is 7. 7 is prime. So it has to be a 7x and an x. Now, 2 is prime. So 2 is either going to go here or there. Take a moment and make a decision. All right, how about there and there? Now again, I'm shooting for a 15 from my B term. My outers are 14, my inners are 1, and that adds up to 15. So that is this one. Now again, we use the trial and error method. We do some brainstorming, some art, judgment, and then check it by FOIL. And this works. Now in our flipped classroom video, we write this here, ax squared plus bx plus c is the standard form. They're asking us to factor this one by grouping. So that method is related to what is called the AC method, where this is our A term, this is our C term. So we're going to multiply the A times C, which is 14 times 2, and get 28. Now we're then going to do the factors of 28. I'll put it here. Now we're looking for a combination of factors that will give me a difference of negative 11. Well, if this 4, 2 times 2 is 4, was a negative 4, and this was a negative 7, that would add up to 11. So now we're going to take our B term here and replace it with these factors, as we showed in the flipped classroom video. So 14x squared stays the same. I'm going to go minus 7x, this one here, minus 4x, this one there, and then our 2 stays the same. So what we did is we went from a 3-term trinomial to a 4-term polynomial. These are the same. This is our B value here. We found out. So now we're going to factor by grouping. Well, we did this before. What can we take out of here? Well, we can take out a 7x. And we get 2x minus 1. Now, out of here, we're going to take out a negative 2. So we want to get our signs to look like that. And this becomes then 2x minus 1. So our grouping from the previous lesson now is the skill we want to bring up to date, so to speak. So we go 7x minus 2 in one set of parentheses, and then 2x minus 1. And we have factored this by grouping using the AC method. Now, could you brainstorm and factor that the regular way? Well, you could, but again, it's a challenge, and here they're asking us to do it by grouping. But so 14, we know the x and the x are going to go there, but this could be a 14 and a 1, or it could be a 7 and a 2. It's usually that, especially when this is sort of small. Now, when we take our 2 here, where does that 2 go? Does that 2 go here, or does it go there? Well, if it was here, this would give us 14 plus 2 is 16, so that's not good. So again, you're brainstorming, and you might say, well, let's try the 2 there and the 1 there. And again, this 2 has to be positive. Our middle term is negative, so both of these have to be negative. And when I check it by FOIL, my outers are a -7, my inners a -4, and it works. So again, if it could be factored, whether you do it the traditional way or whether you use the AC method, practice is what you need to develop your skill. All right, let's go on. Be sure you're asking questions. Now, for number 5, they have it partially done. It's in standard form. Take a moment. And again, I like it underneath. Our A term is 1, so we know this is going to be P and P. And notice now your C term is negative, while your B term is positive. So see what you can come up with here. Well, let's say a 9 and a 3 give me 27. Now I need a positive from my middle term. So I'm going to have my outers as a positive 9, my inners as a negative 3p. When I FOIL, it ends up being our middle term a positive 6. And when I do my last term, I get a negative 27. So this checks. All right, now for this one, again, it's in standard form. Is there a common factor? Yes, you can factor out an x. So this would be line 2, x squared plus 13x plus 40. Now line 3 looks like this. Where you have your trinomial, you're going to see if you can find the binomials. Now, since our A term is 1, this is easy. X goes there and X goes there. So now we're looking for factors of 40 that will add up to 13. Well, mentally, 1 times 40, 2 times 20, 4 times 10, 8 times 5, or 5 times 8, either way. And you see this is the combination, 8 times 5. And since they're all plus, all of these will be plus. And as you check your work and FOIL this, you get that, and multiply through by x, you get this. Okay, let's go on. Now there is a certain art to all of this. Is it in standard form? Yes. Is there any common factor? No. So we write it down, 2 sets of parentheses. And since our A term is 1, this is going to be x, and this is going to be x. And we'll pause to see what you can get. All right, this is going to be a 2, and this is going to be a 1. And our middle term is a 1, a negative 1, so this outers will be a negative 2, and the inners a positive. And when I FOIL it, it checks. All right, let's go on to our last one. Well, 2 more. And for number 8, they're asking us to factor this. Well, are there any common factors? Yes. And we know we can take an x squared out of each one of these. And how about the number part? Well, we know they're all even, so we can take a 2 out. Can we take a 3 out? Well, if we add the digits, this is 9. We take a 3 out of there. Add these up, this adds up to 9 also. You can take a 3 out of that. That's the rule of threes. If you add up the digits and they add up to a number that is divisible by 3, then you can take a 3 out of that number too. So 5 and 6 is 11. So you can't take a 3 out of there. So 3's are out. Now, how about a 4? And again, you'd have to check it. And then 5, no. And then 6, maybe. So you might say, how could I possibly figure out the greatest common factor? Well, we're going to go to this method here, 36, 108, and 56. Now I'll pause as we figure out, again, this is a good review, because if you ever get stuck, you can use this technique. Get the prime factorization trees, write this in your booklet over there. So as we study now, there are no common threes. There is a 2, a 2, and a 2. Another 2, a 2, and a 2. So actually, all we can take out of this is 4x squared. All right, so then this becomes 9x squared. And 4 into there is 27x. And 4 goes into there 14 times. Now again, you may not know that right offhand, but you need to use your calculator. We figured out what was the greatest common factor as far as the number and the letter, and this is what we get. So our next line, 2 sets of parentheses, and then we have to start to brainstorm. Now this is a real difficult one because here we have a 9. That could be a 9 and a 1, or it could be a 3x and a 3x. Now I worked this ahead of time, so I wouldn't take that much time to do it. Now the next thing is your 14. Now it could be a 14 and a 1, but that's way too big. So it could be, and you're trying these out, let's say a 7 and a 2. And I see it now. Again, I saw it when I worked it out. So my outers now, a 21. My inners, a 6, adds up to a 27. And this is the factorization. And if I FOIL it, which I sort of just did, it checks out. Wow. Okay, let's end up with an easy one. Again, these are all from practice. Go back to red. Standard form? Yes. 2 sets of parentheses. Now here you have to be careful you choose the proper letter, Y and Y. Now 42, hopefully you know that. That's going to be 6 times 7. That gives you a 42, and the difference of these would be a 1. Now my middle term is a plus here. So when I do my inners, I need a positive number, which will be a 7y, and my outers a negative 6y. That adds up to a 1y. And this checks out, and when I do my last, I get a negative 42. Okay, again, some of these were challenging. Judgment, art, practice, thought, study are all key items to get your answers. Let's wrap this one up.